James Cook is way undervalued in your dynasty leagues. We'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. You can also check me out over on the Locked On Cowboys podcast. And joining me today, as always, is our new co-host, Michael Fabiano. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. On today's show, we're taking a look at the current ADP from Dynasty League Football and comparing it to Fabs' ADP that's over on Sports Illustrated. Go check that out. But Fabs, I want to talk about one of the biggest disagreements that you have. James Cook is RB10 in your latest rankings, but for drafters, he is RB18 right now and falling. He's about to fall behind running backs like RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Chuba Hubbard. Why are you so high on James Cook going into the year?
My answer is, why shouldn't I be? He's going to be 26 years old in September. And remember, he didn't start off his career. This is not a guy who's had an Earl Campbell sort of workload. I mean, right?
I got the numbers. 927 touches over the last 7 years of football for James Cook.
Yeah. And when you look at nearly 1,300 scrimmage yards last year, 18 total touchdowns, 266 fantasy points. He averaged almost 17 points per game. Now, I get it. Natural regression will happen with the touchdowns. But also keep in mind, I mean, he saw nearly 30% of Buffalo's backfield touches. They didn't add anybody who's going to compete. I mean, it's going to be Ray Davis and Ty Johnson again. And he has arguably the best fantasy quarterback and one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League in the offense under Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's not going anywhere. So that's big for me. Now, is James Cook going somewhere? We're not sure about that. I would guess Buffalo would want to keep him because he has certainly proven, at least last year, that he can be very productive in this offense. And I think where I have him ranked higher than the Dynasty ADP is because I am looking at age also. He is younger than Derrick Henry, who we're going to talk about, Christian McCaffrey, who we're going to talk about a lot, by the way, and Josh Jacobs. And I want a young guy in an offense that's going to continue to put him in chances, in situations where he's going to be able to put up great numbers. And I even, Marcus, I had my doubts about James Cook. He was one of my breakouts last year, but I had doubts about whether or not at his size, he's going to be able to handle a full workload. And you just mentioned it. Based on, the touches, he hasn't really been a true featured back workhorse type of back, but it works for him. He can catch the ball out of the backfield and he gets opportunities in the goal line situations. And by the way, he's also a very explosive running back as well. I had him in a couple of fantasy leagues and I can't, it was just amazing to watch him break away and score those long touchdowns as I screamed and yelled at the top of my lungs.
So I think there's a lot of uncertainty from drafters right now because of the contract. He's in the final year of his contract.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He's holding out. But doesn't it make sense for Buffalo just to keep him? Because I was thinking about this offense, Fabs, and I mean, you could make the case he's the best player on this offense outside of Josh Allen. Like, I like Khalil Shakir. I like Dalton Kincaid, but he's just a better player than all those guys.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And also, I mean, let's be honest. He's not going to break the bank. And I don't think that he expects to break the bank. He's not going to make Christian McCaffrey money or Derrick Henry type of money or Alvin Kamara type of money. But again, running back in the prime of his career, 26 years old in September in that offense. I just, outside of potentially some sort of injury that you can't foresee, and hopefully that doesn't happen, I just don't expect any sort of huge drop-offs in his level of production and his opportunities. And again, what's, an offense that's always going to put you in a position to score with Josh Allen under center.
Yeah, the contract's not going to be big because he doesn't have the resume of Saquon. He doesn't even have the resume of Josh Jacobs, who led the NFL in rushing with the Raiders back in 2022. So you're looking at somebody who's probably going to get around 11, 12, maybe even 13 million a year. which is not that much in the grand
Oh,
scheme of things. Buffalo's going to get this done. That's kind of the point. I just think he's really good. And sometimes that's as simple as fantasy football is, hey, is this player good and is he in a good offense? Yes and yes. Sign me up.
yeah, exactly. Once again, when you're looking at Dynasty, at least for me, I'm always looking at age, and obviously production is a big part of it too. And I mean, this guy proved last year that he can be not elite, but a damn good fantasy running back. And once again, the quarterback situation is not going to change. Josh Allen's going to be there for longer than James Cook will be. So that's another reason why I feel good about him.
All right, let's just look at some of the running backs who are being drafted ahead of James Cook over on Dynasty League Football. And I just want to go through a couple names. Chase Brown, another running back on a really good offense. He's actually RB14, quite a few spots, almost a full round ahead of James Cook. Can you make any sense of that?
Well, I mean, what we saw last season was pretty impressive from Chase Brown. And he also is in an offense with a quarterback who's not going anywhere. And he's also in an offense that is going to put him in position to score points. For me, it's more of just a personal preference kind of thing. James Cook has been building to becoming a top 10 fantasy running back, and he was extremely productive last season. I like Chase Brown. Is he a guy who is going to continue to put up big numbers? I mean, that's certainly within the realm of possibility. In terms of age, I mean, they're not that much farther off. So
no, I think there's like a half-year difference between the two.
Yeah, it's right. It's not. So it's really kind of personal preference for me, and I like Cook more simply because the Bengals also have way more weapons than Buffalo, like established weapons. When you're talking about Jamar Chase and you're talking about a T. Higgins, there's more weapons for Joe Burrow to go to. I love Chase Brown. I got no problem with him in Dynasty. I just like James Cook a little more.
This one's really interesting. Trevion Henderson, RB12 right now on Dynasty League Football. The size is almost identical. Trevion Henderson has almost the same number of touches coming out of college as what James Cook has now through his entire college career and NFL career. I think if you're the Patriots, you're hoping that Trevion Henderson becomes James Cook, which is why it's so weird to me that they're being drafted so far apart right now.
And when you look at the Patriots roster, like that was one of the moves in the draft that we were like, damn it, right? Because Ramondre Stevenson is in the prime of his career. And if memory serves, I don't know that the Patriots can get out of that contract for a couple of more years.
Yeah,
so
it's at least another year. Yeah.
Right. So you're going to have to wait on Henderson. I wouldn't expect him to come in and completely take that job away where James Cook, we know he's going to get most of the touches in Buffalo's offense. And Buffalo's offense, once again, Josh Allen, certainly going to put him in a position to continue scoring fantasy points where, as in New England, as much as I like Henderson, don't get me wrong, there's still some question marks there about the Patriots offense. So that one to me is I think more just age and potential upside than anything else. But I think over the next couple of years, I mean, James Cook is going to be the better running back in fantasy.
Yeah, and in dynasty leagues, it's really hard at the running back position. We kind of look at it like a 2-year thing because things happen so quickly at the running backfield. You know, New England could draft a running back next year to replace Ramondre Stevenson, and Trevion Henderson is still in a running back by committee there. So we love James Cook. Go out and buy him in your dynasty leagues right now. All right, Fabs, let's talk about maybe my favorite player in the NFL, Derrick Henry. Is it officially time to fade Derrick Henry? We'll discuss that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Here's how it works. You post your job, and LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. It's no wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are discussing 3 running backs that Fabs is either higher or lower on from the current ADP. And let's get into Derrick Henry, because you have Derrick Henry at RB17 right now, where drafters have him at RB10. In startup drafts, Fabs, he's going at pick 34, which means bottom of the 3rd round. That feels rich, even to someone like me.
I love Derrick Henry.
I know.
He is one of the most enjoyable running backs to watch. Why? Because he's powerful. He just trucks the hell out of defensive backs, and he's amazing. But you also have to factor in he's entering his age 31 season, and I know people will push back. I've had this conversation with my pal Bob Harris from Football Guys about Derrick Henry. He's not human, and he has certainly proven that he is not the typical running back. A lot of times when you get into age 28, 29, 30, the running back position starts to fade a little bit. And we've seen it from a lot of really great running backs. I mean, Sean Alexander comes to mind, but we haven't seen that from Derrick Henry. But here's the thing, Marcus, at what point do over 2,500 regular season touches and over 200 postseason touches catch up with him? And I'd expect that maybe you'd get one more potentially elite season from him before, Father Time kind of starts to shut him down statistically. And the fact that he's ranked ahead of Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, and some of the rookie backs on DLF is kind of crazy to me. We're talking about Dynasty. We're looking long-term. Could he help you win a championship this season? Yeah, of course he could. But again, you may get 1 or 2 more really good years from him. That's it. I don't see how many running backs. I mean, honestly, the only guy that comes to mind maybe is Curtis Martin, who had a crazy good year. I think he was 31. He led the league in rushing. But how many running backs do we see that actually go beyond that and put up massive numbers? I mean, we just typically don't see it. And I get it. Derrick Henry's kind of a unicorn. But I think at some point, that physical toll on his body, over the last decade plus has got to catch up with him.
So I think the thing that's helping Henry is that this offense is really good. Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, they're going into year 3. In his first 2 years, Lamar Jackson was MVP and probably should have been MVP last year. So this is a really good environment for Derrick Henry, and having Lamar Jackson, whatever running back has been in there when Lamar Jackson's under center, has always produced fantasy points, whether it was washed up Mark Ingram or Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins, whoever, right? So I think the floor is relatively high because he's going to get the rushing touchdowns and he's going to be somewhat efficient. But is he going to be as efficient as what we saw last year? Is he going to Is he going to have these long breakaway runs? I don't know. And I would assume, Fabs, like as Derrick Henry ages, they're going to want to make sure that they limit the amount of touches he gets so they can keep him fresh for the postseason. And maybe we see more Keaton Mitchell this year, who was dealing with the torn ACL last year. Maybe Justice Hill gets a little bit more work. I still really like Derrick Henry this year for fantasy. I don't mind him in Dynasty, but RB10, 34 overall is just
way too high.
It's just way too high for us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, folks. Sometimes you play the big name game. Oh, I can get Derrick Henry at the end of 3rd round. Sounds great. In a redraft, hell yeah. But in Dynasty, age and long-term potential and statistical success is so important. So if you're one of those fantasy managers in Dynasty who just wants to win now, okay, go ahead, draft Derrick Henry. But keep in mind that in a year or two, you're going to not really get the return on your investment.
So I wanted to ask you about some trades. So let's say you have Derrick Henry on your Dynasty team right now, and you're thinking of moving him. These are some recent trades that have happened from Dynasty League football that I want your thoughts on. Derrick Henry for a 2026 first-round pick in Baishal Tootin, the running back the Jaguars took in the 4th round.
I like getting a first-round pick for Derrick Henry, but that's next season, correct? So
yes, next year.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a bad trade at all. If I can get a first-round pick for even Derrick Henry, 31 years old, guys. I mean, this is going to be his age 31 season. So we're coming towards the end. So I don't mind that deal.
Okay. Superflex League. Derrick Henry for J.J. McCarthy and Cam Scatterbo.
J.J. McCarthy and Cam Scatterbo. I don't know that I'm going to go there. Now, you have to keep in mind, trades are very personal. They're very individual in terms of team. So maybe that other squad needs a quarterback really bad, and they're thinking, well, Derrick Henry's an older back, and I can get J.J. McCarthy, who is in an offense that has been very quarterback friendly. I completely get that. On the surface, though, I don't love that deal. Just coming out of your mouth, I was like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. All right, last one, and this is somebody that's trying to just acquire talent for the future. Derrick Henry for Xavier Worthy, straight up.
No, I want more. I need more. If you got to throw in a draft pick or two, in there as well. Listen, Xavier Worthy was very good in the second half of last season. He was very good in the postseason. There was no Rashee Rice. For a lot of this, the regular season, most of the regular season, there was no Hollywood Brown. So I don't know that this is going to end up being the next Tyreek Hill. I'd want more.
So you want to guess where, without looking, where Xavier Worthy's being drafted right now among receivers on Dynasty League football? Just give me a guess.
Based on the tone of your voice, it's probably way higher than I would think it should be.
Yes. Wide receiver 17. It's pretty high.
Is he going ahead of Rashee Rice?
Rashee Rice is wide receiver 19, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
both those guys are top 20 receivers. If that's the case, I mean, buy Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah, you mean the Patrick Mahomes who's been a mediocre fantasy quarterback the last couple of seasons? I mean, okay. Listen, when you look at the Chiefs and their pass catching depth this season, it potentially could be as good as it's ever been. Kelsey, I know, he's now, I would suggest past his prime. We talk about him more when we're discussing Taylor Swift than we do how good he is in fantasy, at least the last year or so. But Hollywood Brown is coming back, although it's a short-term deal. You've got Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice, we think, is going to be back. I guess we'll find out about that. They drafted the kid Royals out of Utah State. That's another player that potentially could be something. So yeah, I mean, in that case, but still, that also brings up, well, there's a lot of mouths to feed there. I'm not trading Derrick Henry for Xavier Worthy straight up.
So you want a little bit more than that. Okay. I probably would do that if I'm trying to rebuild and Derrick Henry just doesn't have a lot of value to me, but I think in a vacuum, I think you're right. I think I would want a little bit more.
But here's the thing.
All right, go ahead.
If you're trying to do that deal, then look at the other rosters in your league and look at a team that might be a Derrick Henry away from winning a championship, and try and
there
draw
probably
a
is 2 or 3 teams in your league that are.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the biggest name on this list, Christian McCaffrey, and the Dynasty world is completely split on his value. Not Fabs. Fabs has a pretty strong stance. We will get to that next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. As training camps get closer and moves are being made, hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, Fabs, let's talk about Christian McCaffrey. You have him ranked as RB18 right now. On Dynasty League Football, RB13, 41 overall, which I am shocked to see him that high. But why are you out on Christian McCaffrey this year?
Why would anybody be in, especially in a Dynasty League, a Dynasty Startup League, and Christian McCaffrey's there? I got to be honest with you, I might move him down beyond 18. Listen, when Christian McCaffrey is right, he is as good as any running back in the history of the National Football League, statistically. Look at the numbers. He's right up there with LaDainian Tomlinson and Marshall Faulk and Priest Holmes. Like, he's phenomenal. But the problem, and I just wrote an article about this over at Sports Illustrated, why his redraft ADP is too high.
Where's he at redraft?
Pushing him up into the first round. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, or even high in the second round. Listen, here, I'm going to give you a little history about Christian McCaffrey. Okay. Final 2 seasons with the Panthers, he played 10 combined games, and that was it because he was always hurt. Okay. Then he ended up landing in San Francisco. He put up really good numbers in 2022. And then we started to see him sort of lose the brittle injury prone tag there. And he was very good. He was elite. There's no question about it. And faith was kind of restored in him. And then he was, the consensus #1 overall pick. And then he was on the Madden cover. I don't know. I did a video that's on my social media platforms about Saquon Barkley, and I think that's a good conversation for us to have at some point on the program. We won't get into that now. But McCaffrey was out for the first 9 weeks last year because of the Achilles. He comes back in week 10, and then he plays in 3+ games that gets hurt again in Buffalo. And in those games, and I know it's a small sample size, but he averaged 12 points a game, and that's it. 12 points per game. If we look at that, I mean, that's like the worst point per game average of his entire career. Oh, and by the way, he's turning 29 this month. So, I mean, why in the hell
did you see those OTA videos of him
in Dynasty? I don't get it.
Did you see those OTA videos of him running around and people are very, very excited? I think that's where this hype is coming from.
So, but here's the thing, Marcus. People are excited that he's healthy. He's played 4 football games since the end of the 2022 season. He's barely played 2023. He has barely played. And so he should be healthy right now. Yes, he should be healthy right now. So what happens when he gets into a game and he gets hit and they don't have the depth behind him anymore? I don't know what the Niners did. I don't know why they traded away Jordan Mason. They let Elijah Mitchell go to Kansas City. Right now you got Isaac Guerrero, who looked good, but he also got banged up last year. And then you got Jordan out of Oregon. This is going to be the 3rd running back. I don't know why you would want Christian McCaffrey in a dynasty startup league. I have no idea why. You're going to get, Marcus, maybe 1 good year from him. And the arrow already started pointing down last year when he came back from that Achilles.
So he's been in the NFL for 8 seasons now, and 4 of those 8 years under 120 carries. I mean, he's missed a significant amount of time. Now, there is one part of this that I want to mention. Brian Peacock, who hosts the Locked On 49ers show, has said for a couple years now that the plan has been for McCaffrey as he gets older to start transitioning him to more of a slot receiver. And he thinks that could potentially start happening this year, where he's not getting 20 carries a game. He might get 8 to 12, but primarily be their slot receiver. And he kind of believes that he's their next Deebo Samuel, the guy that's going to get the jet sweeps, that's going to get the screens, to kind of lessen the workload for him a little bit. Maybe that starts to happen this year. But if that's the case, let's say that's the case, and they're turning him into Deebo Samuel. You don't want to take Deebo Samuel in round 1 of your redraft leagues, and you certainly don't want to take Deebo Samuel in top of round 4 in your startup drafts.
Yeah. Again, I think, Marcus, it's just name recognition. It's, I'm going to get Christian McCaffrey in redrafts. Okay. People are drafting him hoping that he has one healthy season. Hoping that he has one healthy season. In a dynasty startup, you're hoping for what? 2? I mean, he's going to be 30. He's going to be 30 next year. So listen, the guy's great. I just don't understand why he's being drafted so high.
Let me ask you this. There is a section of dynasty managers out there that feel like it's the Ricky Bobby approach. If you're not first, you're last, right? So they're okay with the risk. Like, hey, if it works out, great, I'm going to win my league. If it doesn't, that's okay. At least I took a chance on a guy that could be an actual difference maker. How do you factor that in when it comes to ranking these guys? Because there's no doubt Christian McCaffrey compared to like Travion Henderson, Chuba Hubbard, or Alvin Kamara, his ceiling is just so much higher. But what are the odds that he actually gets there?
Right. But here's the thing. I mean, I understand, the win now attitude, I want to win now kind of thing. But you're handcuffing yourself in a way that when you're starting up a dynasty roster and one of your first 2 picks might have 1 or 2 good years left in him, might. And the guy, as you mentioned, has been hurt a ton in his career. If Christian McCaffrey ever stayed healthy, he may end up going down in history as the most statistically successful running back in the history of the NFL. The guy, when he's right, is amazing. The problem is he's just not durable. And age does not, you don't get more durable as you age. Trust me, I know. I can't even run anymore. You just do not get more durable as you get older. So passing up on like a Chase Brown or a James Cook or, a Quinshon Judkins or a Ken Walker. And Ken Walker's got his own issues, but he's young at least. I don't understand that.
Or James Cook. Cook's the easy one for me. Like I would just rather have Cook straight up than McCaffrey. And the fact that they're being drafted 3-4 rounds apart from each other makes no sense.
No question. So I don't get it. And again, maybe the argument is, well, people want to win now, but I mean, like in Dynasty, like sometimes I'll give you an example. In one of my Dynasty leagues, which started up a couple of years ago, I built the team knowing I probably wasn't going to compete for a championship in year one because I drafted a lot of youth. But now that team ended up winning a championship last year. Why? Because I was able to get Drake London and I was able to get a lot of really good young pieces that evolved into one hell of a Dynasty team. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Do you want to win now? Of course you do. Of course you do. But you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face in a Dynasty league by drafting a guy who is going to be 29 years old, who has been injury prone uber injury prone.
Sure.
And it's you're playing Russian roulette there, Marcus. I just can't do it. And there's nothing against the guy. He's great. He's been amazing. The dude just cannot stay healthy. And once again, you do not get more durable as you get older. The opposite is true.
And don't be so sure that even if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, that he's going to absolutely outproduce someone like James Cook. Because I think there's a chance that if both guys are healthy on the field this year, Cook just outproduces them. We saw Cook score a bunch of touchdowns last year. Cook has averaged about 5 yards per carry. Maybe he's just trending up in an offense that we know is going to be really good. Meanwhile, this San Francisco offense has a lot of old pieces on it. They've lost a lot of talent. Maybe this just isn't the offense that we've seen from San Francisco over the last couple of years, and there's just fewer touchdown opportunities than we've seen in previous seasons.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, guys, that I always say this: the NFL is only predictable in its unpredictability every single season. Yes. Every single season. We all loved C.J. Stroud last year. We all loved Anthony Richardson last season, and neither one of those guys panned out. Weird stuff happens in the National Football League, right? And for me, saying that, I mean, James Cook was a better fantasy running back than Christian McCaffrey was last season, so that's not completely insane. But there are other backs that just when you look at it from a long-term lens, I honestly, I could drop McCaffrey out of my top 20 before we get into the heavy draft season. I really could. Sometimes, and I almost never look at other people's rankings because I don't want to have my opinions skewed one way or the other. So I don't know exactly where McCaffrey is going in dynasty startups, but RB13, that almost makes me want to drop him even more just to prove my point.
You're out.
That you should not be drafting Christian McCaffrey in a prominent role in a dynasty startup. Hell, you should not be drafting Christian McCaffrey in too prominent of a role in a redraft. If you don't get Garendo, it's almost like Ken Walker, right? But Ken Walker's significant. If you draft Ken Walker, you better get Zach Charbonnet. I mean, even in a dynasty startup, you want both, because if you get Ken Walker and you don't get Charbonnet, you're going to have headaches. The same thing goes with McCaffrey. If you draft McCaffrey, you need to have Garendo, especially in a dynasty startup, because Garendo could end up taking that job and running with it, literally and figuratively, into the future. And it's just, I'm not playing that game. I don't want to play that game.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen of the day. Later on this week, we're going to look at the biggest ADP disagreements at receiver and tight end for Fabs. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Check out the YouTube channel as well. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael _Fabiano. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.